With having only played 3 games so far, how well do you know your team?
Not very well. Three games is not a lot. We typically try to measure ourselves on our last 5 games, and we've yet to hit that benchmark. But there's some things that I know about them as individuals. I think that gives us hope for a good year. Great attitudes, hard workers, very coachable, a very unselfish group. But in terms of basketball, I still think our sample size is rather small.
Coach, you've played guys 30 plus minutes the last few days. You've talked about how you guys are going to have a shorter rotation. How do you think that's going to change when you have to play games back-to-back days throughout this conference schedule?
No, they're going to keep playing those minutes. They're young; they'll be fine. I mean, we don't practice very long, and we'll give them, multiple days off throughout the week. But they need to anticipate and properly hydrate and rest, expecting to play 30 plus minutes. Especially this early in the year, we haven't had enough time to develop any type of depth. We're hoping for our guys that are out to be available for the game, and if they are, that's going to really help us.
And those guys who are out, just Demarcus and Dawson, where are we at with them?
They've been made available to practice this week, so they're going to practice, and if neither one of them are sore after practice, then we're going to make them available for the game. I'm sure both will be on a minute restriction, but it just depends on how they practice tomorrow. We're off today, and when we start practicing tomorrow, it just depends on how their bodies react to that stressor. And if they're good, then they're going to be available for the game.
Coach, I guess you had some concerns about traveling. You wanted to have your non-conference games all at JQH Arena. Just your thoughts on having to hit the road.
Well, we're not going to make too big of a deal of it with our guys. We just want them to concentrate on playing basketball, whether it's home or away. But I think from a health standpoint, I feel pretty good about how we're going to travel. We're going to be on a charter plane with just our inner bubble of players, a manager, and a trainer. And so as long as our pilot and the flight attendant are good, I think we'll be fine. So we'll get to the hotel and we'll just be bunkered down. We'll go from door to door, hotel, arena, back to hotel, and then the next day do the same thing.
Hi, Dana.
Hello.
When you look at just kind of the back-to-back games against the same opponent, how many adjustments do you anticipate will be made from one game to the next? And do you go into a series with slightly different game plans for the 2 games?
What we try to do is, we'll have a one way of defending something. And if that doesn't work, we'll always, no matter if it's a series or not, have a backup way to do that. I think you're going to see some adjustments from game to game, especially in the Valley where you have, veteran players and veteran coaches. We'll only be able to adjust some of the things that we've introduced to our players. We don't want to give them something that we've never mentioned, but I mean, if we've ever spent one day practicing it, then it's definitely, on the table. So you've got some very well coached teams and some veteran players in this league. And I would have to imagine that there are going to be some adjustments made overnight, walk through situations to try to, give yourself the best chance to get something on what we're calling that back 9 game.
How do you feel the schedule will impact the league race? Do you feel like this could increase parity in a conference that has had a lot of parity recently?
Our league, like you mentioned, it's always had that parity, but, it depends on how you look at it. It's a little concerning for teams that are going to be, we're all going to be in some type of race as the year goes on, jockeying for position. And if you start getting into that back half of your schedule and, you've got to play 2 straight games on the road against, maybe a tough matchup. That's gotta be challenging. But at the same time, if you maybe catch somebody early who may not be playing as well or hadn't played as many games or hadn't been in a rhythm, you may be able to steal one. So I think it's going to eventually even out. But I would say that it has its more disadvantages than it does advantages. But we had to do this. I think most coaches, if not all, were in favor of this as the pandemic started to grow. In the beginning, very few coaches were in favor of this method. But as you see what's going on around the country, we're trying to do the best job we can getting our games in. Our league has had multiple teams perform well in non-league. So I think we're going to do ourselves a favor by getting our games in.
We've touched a lot on the way the offense has looked, just a brand new look this year. What went into just kind of the off season, just idea to come up and change things, to come up with this system and what you guys are running now?
Well, I think the first thing is we have a long way to go with it. We, after evaluating our games thus far, our execution has to get better. I mean, it really does. But we do have a group that's willing to move the basketball. And sometimes if you just get the ball going from side, top side, in a paint touch, you're going to get something good. So, but I think finding a way to get our players to actually do what we're asking, I think is the biggest thing. I don't know how much we've really changed what we've been saying, but maybe we're saying it in a different way, or maybe we just have better listeners. I don't know. But nevertheless, we're going to have to be a group that does everything by committee, and that's offense and defense.
A lot of 3-pointers in there. That's just kind of the way basketball, the game, has just kind of been going, with the 3-pointer being the most valuable shot. Just kind of how do you guys are shooting so many, and you're making a few right now, but just how much emphasis have you put on the 3-point shot, and just kind of the analytics that kind of go behind that?
We put a lot on there. We need to shoot more, to be honest. I think we're shooting about 27 a game. That probably needs to be more, especially as we continue to get deeper. But, I just think it makes a lot of sense. If it's the best thing Jared Ritter does, then that's what he needs to do. If it's the best thing Jamonte Black does, that's what he needs to do. If Lukai Patterson has the ball and he's got a glimmer of daylight from 3, I'd rather him shoot that than drive it literally into the mid-range where the defender's waiting on him to shoot that for less amount of points with a contested hand. We're not as big as we've been. We're a little bit more hybrid. So the longer the shots, the longer the rebounds, we can kind of chase those down a little bit better. And but I think all of it ultimately has to start around Gage, and we've got to establish him a little more than what we have the first couple games. But I would anticipate, Jamonte and Ritter and Mosley and all the guys, even our freshmen that don't play, whenever they do play, the best thing they do is shoot the 3 too. So that's ultimately what we're going to have. And we just got to do a good job of keeping our guys in the gym, getting up shots, and hopefully creating rotation where we get, halfway decent looks.
Coach, forgive me if I'm a little bit late on this question because I was running around at the beginning. How different is this Northern Iowa team without Green as opposed to with Green?
Well, I mean, you can't sit up here and honestly say to yourself that it's not an impact. I mean, probably losing who I think is the best player in our league, man, since McDermott. I mean, he's on that level, right, of McDermott and Van Vliet and all those guys. So what I do know is they're still going to be well coached. They're still going to be fundamental. They still shoot the ball well. They still got a first-team all-league 5-man. They're still going to guard you hard. With all this time off, I'm sure they're going to fix some things that maybe they weren't satisfied with their start. But you got to keep in mind, I'm sure they played the toughest non-league schedule of anyone, a lot like our group last year, in the sense of they're way better than what their record shows. And, they've had a lot of time to prepare. we would anticipate a very, very, very tough, Northern Iowa opponent.
What's impressed you? We haven't talked too much about Keaton Hervey and the way he's played. What has impressed you about the way he is?
He's got a lot of energy, which we knew. He wants to guard the other team's, marquee guy. That's encouraging. He's athletic. He's a great teammate. He can make shots from outside. He and Lukai Patterson both. They haven't made them yet, but they can make them. They're going to continue to shoot them. Just his motor, his spirit. I mean, I think he's already taken 5 charges on the season. I think he took 3 or 4 in our first game. And he's just an ultimate team player. I mean, he really is. And, he's just very valuable. I mean, he can defend a lot of different positions. And once he starts making his outside shot, he's really going to add even a more of an impact on our team.
And you don't like to call players good players, or you like to call them that, but it takes a lot to earn that from you. And you kind of called Demarcus one the other night. What should fans expect when they see him start playing?
A really good player. I mean, he's a coach on the floor. He's a fantastic passer. I mean, he makes the game easier for everybody. He's a competitor. He's just a winner. I mean, he's always won. He's a pesky defender. Plays with a smile, a lot of energy. He just as coaches, we do a lot of diagramming of things. He makes those diagrams work. Sometimes you can diagram whatever you want. If you don't have guys that can make it work, it doesn't matter. But Demarcus Sharp, he's a really good point guard. And, we're anxious to see how he comes back. I would anticipate a little bit of rust, but once he gets his win back, I think he'll really, really impact our team.